Elementary music teacher friend, you love what you do, but you might feel unappreciated and, in fact, unseen some days. You may even feel like you're on a music teacher island and just want to connect with other music teachers who can relate to both your struggles and wins when it comes to teaching elementary music. I get you and understand completely the feelings you're having. That's why each and every week, the Elementary Music Teacher Podcast will provide you with solo and guest episodes that will help you realize you're not alone in your music teaching journey. Throughout each episode, my goal is for you to be able to walk away with actionable steps and ideas to help you feel like you're ready to take on the new week with whatever challenges may be thrown your way. Hi, I'm your host, Jessica Peresta, and I'm so glad you're here. Whether you're at home, in your car, in the shower, or wherever else you're listening, grab your cup of coffee or whatever other beverage is nearby and listen in to the Elementary Music Teacher Podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Elementary Music Teacher Podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Peresta. So excited to have you here. I cannot believe it's officially August. Where has the summer gone? Oh my gosh. So you may be finding yourself either heading back to school this month, or I almost said the school year, this month or in September, whatever the case may be, or maybe it's another month I didn't even name, but whatever the case may be, I want to talk today about what to expect heading back to in-person teaching. Maybe you were already doing in-person teaching, but it's going to change just a little bit this school year and from last school year, even if you were already wearing masks and things, and we're going to talk about that. Or maybe you haven't stepped foot into your music classroom in a full year. And so we're going to talk about what to expect, not only for yourself, but also for your students. So let's get started. The first point I want to talk about is the fact that music class may feel new to a lot of your students. If your students were learning virtually, being back, whether it's for the very first time ever or going back to school if they had been in your school building before, being back in the music classroom may seem foreign or weird at first. It's just going to feel weird and unnatural. Because if they have not been in your music classroom in a year, it's just going to feel a little bit weird and different. So focus on going over procedures, doing name games, any kind of back to school activities you like to do with your kiddos, getting to know your students. I talk a lot about relationship building. It's so important. And let your students know all of the amazing things they'll be learning in music class this year. If you can kind of tell that they're a little hesitant about music class just because they don't really know what to expect, then just maybe take them on a mini tour of your classroom. Show them around. Show them, maybe you're doing center. Show them technology. Show them where your instruments are. Explain to them how they're going to learn new music and how they're going to sing and dance and participate in music and all the other amazing things going on in your music room. So just kind of that goes back to relationship building and kind of starting to talk to them about music class, what it is, what they get to expect, what they're going to get to do. And also, if they have been virtually learning or a hybrid situation, maybe they were learning at home while other kids were in the classroom or whatever it might be, or maybe you were rolling a cart to their classroom, just explaining to them what's going to be happening inside your classroom is going to be so exciting to them. Because even if they saw you in person at all, it will still be so exciting being able to come back into the music room and participate with music with their buddies. The next point I want to make is things may feel awkward for a little bit. It's just gonna feel a little bit awkward and strange, okay? Not just for your kiddos, but for you as well. I don't want you to take it personally if your students are acting a little hesitant about being in your classroom. Know that it's not you, and it's the fact that there's so many transitions happening. There are so many things that your kiddos went through, and maybe you also are having a little bit of an awkward time transitioning back into school because you're maybe going from a virtual teaching situation back to in-person, and just all feels strange and weird and awkward, and it's just going to take a little bit for everybody to get kind of back into the swing of things. Even if you taught in person last year, you had so many restrictions put on you that it still didn't feel the same. This school year, there will still be restrictions in place, maybe a little less than there were last school year for in-person teachers, but there's still going to be restrictions in place. So things will still feel a little awkward. And for your kiddos who have not been in person at all, then the whole situation is going to feel a little weird, which I'm going to talk more about in my next point. But just give them grace, give yourself grace, and know that there's going to be an awkward transition. I don't feel like it'll take a long time. It will take maybe a couple weeks for everybody to feel comfortable being back in the music room, for you to kind of reintroduce everybody to your procedures, what your expectations are, and for them to get excited about being back in the music room. Just let it feel awkward, know that there will be an adjustment, and just keep moving forward. Keep moving forward. I say that a lot on this podcast because I want you to do that. Don't ever feel stuck and keep moving forward. The next point ties directly into what I was just talking about, which is know that the fear is still there. All right. And this is not to scare anybody, but I do want to address this point because it's really important. Adults, you listening to this podcast, you're probably an adult. And if there are any kid listeners, welcome. But this is the teacher podcast, but I'm glad to have you. But adults and kids, you have either known someone, you've been watching the news, you've experienced COVID yourself, and it's a scary thing. So going back to in person, if you have been not in person for a while, can feel a little bit scary. It can feel like a little bit of the unknown, of not knowing what to expect. A little bit scary being around people so much when maybe you haven't been around people very much. It can feel a little bit scary and off. So ease your students' minds by letting them know what protocols you have in place in the music room and how you'll be teaching them music in a safe way. Just make them feel comfortable. And a lot of this happens by just having conversations and explaining to them what you're going to do to disinfect things and showing them where they're going to sit and how they're going to be wearing masks if they're still wearing masks and all the things that you're going to be doing in your music room to keep them safe. Just having conversations with your students and taking the time to listen to them will really help to ease the fear of your kiddos. And if you're feeling fearful or uncertain, it's perfectly normal and okay. Take time to process through your feelings and emotions. Remember that your classroom is your classroom. So set it up accordingly for your comfort level and plan accordingly based on how you're wanting to teach and how you're comfortable teaching music to your students this coming school year. My next point is kiddos aren't used to being at school. I've talked about this a little bit, but I want to address it more under this point. You may see, especially at first, a bit more pushback, behavior problems, or kids just acting disinterested because they're so used to being at home. Think about it. When you were virtually teaching and you saw kiddos at home, a lot of times their hair wasn't brushed. They may have been showing up in their pajamas. They may have been showing up in their bed with their laptop on the bed or whatever. And so they're just used to sitting behind the computer most of the day too. So they're not used to being at school. So a lot of it there's just going to be a little pushback and a little bit of like lagging, or you're going to maybe see some lazy behavior of kids just kind of not really knowing what to do or not wanting to do it at first. But kids are really resilient and they will adjust. It's just going to take some time. And like I said, it's going to be an adjustment getting back to the normal school day, and give your students and yourself a lot of grace and understanding. Everybody's going to need to be understanding of each other. Everybody's going to need to show grace and patience, and everybody's going to be making sure that your students feel loved and supported and that you are there for them. They don't need to come to school afraid. They don't need to come to school uncertain. You're going to make them feel comfortable and ready to come to the music room. Ask them, how did they create music with their families at home? How did they experience it? Bring that into your music room in a variety of ways. While they were at home, it's not like everything was lost. It was different and weird, but if you were doing virtual teaching, ask them, hey, the days I didn't see you, which maybe wasn't a lot for those students that didn't show up at all to your virtual calls, but say the days I didn't see you, what ways did you create music? Did you learn any new songs with your families? Were there any activities you did with your families, or what did you like to listen to in the car? And have conversations around that. And that's a great icebreaker, by the way, for any school year for that matter. But just getting your students familiar with you and excited to talk about the music they're interested in will really help those students who are unsure about coming back to a school building get excited about being there. And my last point, we're going to end this episode, which is a quicker episode, on a positive note, is expect to make music with kids again. That is an expectation. That is something to look forward to. That is something that is going to be so exciting. So many of you didn't see a single student come to class virtually, or you saw less engagement from the kids than you're used to seeing. It was a little overwhelming, disheartening, and you're just, gosh, I just want to teach my kids music again. So expect that you're going to get to make music again. That's something to be so excited about and something to look forward to. Everything's not going to go back to normal. It's probably not going to be that way. But knowing that you're moving a little bit closer, even if it just feels like it's like an inch by inch thing towards being able to create music with kids in a real life situation, is encouraging. It should make you feel so happy and excited to be going back, to be able to see these kids' faces again, to be able to maybe hug them. And if you can't do that, give them an elbow bump and just let them know you're so excited to see them again. With all the uncertainty about being back to school and the expectations of what they're expected to do to go from home to back to school, SEL is going to be so important. Connecting with these kiddos emotionally, really letting them know that you're there for them and you're excited to see them, but also be excited about creating music with your students again. So as you're heading back into the school year, if you're heading back into teaching in person, maybe you have not been, or maybe you were, but you're like, man, last year was ridiculously hard. I have other episodes about that, and go back and scroll through the podcast to find them. But I want you to know that although things may be a little awkward and weird at first, it's going to be an adjustment phase. Getting excited to create music with your students is what you can look forward to heading into this school year. So you guys have an amazing week. I'll be back on next week with an amazing new episode with a special guest. I'll see you then. Well, hey there. Thank you so much for listening into the Elementary Music Teacher Podcast. There is an exclusive Facebook group just for listeners of this podcast and any elementary music teacher called the Elementary Music Teacher Community Facebook group. Come on over and join us there, where we have conversations around the podcast episodes and encourage each other each and every week. And also head to my website, thedomesticmusician.com. I have some free resources there that you can download to help you gain traction in your classroom today, as well as the blog and the membership site and all kinds of other goodies to help you keep going in your music teaching journey. I cannot wait to keep connecting with you and encouraging you and spurring you on in your journey of teaching elementary music. Hang in there, have an amazing week, and I will see you soon.